are now about to witness the awesome, crushing might of Knuckle Up! Oh man, gone are the days when I would do the audio version of the show, go into oxygen deficit, pass out, wake up on the floor. Nah, I would love to do that on the video, but I think that I would get letters. You know, you can push it up to the line, push it over the line. People get nervous. Like that game we used to have called What Would It Take? What would it take to make people more nervous about Knuckle Up? What exactly would it take to make people nervous about Knuckle Up? What would it take? Only show on the internet, baby, featuring machetes. We'll get the show started right after this. We got some big news. But first, this. I'm on my way back from nowhere. I'm taking a real good look at you. I'm taking a real good look at your face. Being paid back in full, always nothing. All right, my friends. Welcome to the show that apparently never ends. I see some of you guys lined up all right early. Very nice, thank you. I'm back from Tango. Man, I tell you, you know what? 2 hours of jiu-jitsu in the first part of the day, ending up with some time at Tango. You know what kills it? It kills it holding your arms like this. Oh, try doing that for an hour. My shoulders are on fire. But if your shoulder offends you, cut it out. Hence the machete. Nah, I got the machete. Most people keep baseball bats in the house because they think it's a good home defense. It's not good for anything because you're never going to get a good windup without catching a wall or a bookcase or you know, the people in your house, catching them in the head as you try to fend off an intruder who's got a sharp edge weapon. But you take something small like this, and a guy knows right away, I touch you with it, whatever he touches with it, I'm going to lose. You know, it still doesn't help you against a guy with a knife, with a gun necessarily, but pretty much every single thing else, you know. And what I'm working on right now is sharpening this. You know, you can't, if you want to combat sharpen, you know, household goods, you have to find the right knife sharpener because a lot of guys want, for example, suppose you have a karambit and you want to put a double edge on a karambit. Technically, double edge is a dagger illegal, well, at least in the state of California, which is where we are. But I got some big commercials, and for those of you at the top, I know some of you get like halfway through and you go, Jesus Christ, Bourgeois, I can't take it. I got a life to live. I can't talk to this guy. So let's get the commercials out of the way. All right, number one, in the intro, in the written intro of the show, I'm going to put a listener URL. There's a guy, his name is Greg Kasananahavich. Can't pronounce it. Anyway, I guess it's Kasananahavich. It'll be in the intro. So the stuff that you typically ignore, and if you listen to this on YouTube, you'll have to go to Bloody Elbow to see the intro. It's a URL. This guy came up just like the badass motherfucker shirts. Woke up one morning and goes, I got to do it. What did he have to do? Well, he had to do a shirt that says, Old Man Jiu-Jitsu with my face in the middle. I think the shirt's is $16, stocking stuffer, but he's doing it through this custom ink thing. So it's only until April 23rd, and then they don't exist anymore. So unless you go ahead and do one. So right away, you know, there you go. That's one commercial. The Old Man Jiu-Jitsu shirts, I guess Gray Heather, black imagery. You got it. You want it. Live it, love it. Bobby H. I'm not gonna know if he wants the whole name or name already mentioned. Is ordered one from Ireland, April 23rd, baby. That's it. Second ad, and a second ad tomorrow. This week. If you're in Boston, I'm gonna be on the radio. I wish I had more information about that. I'll get it for you in a second. I'm going to be on the radio in Boston. But tomorrow on Facebook Live, I'm going to be on Facebook Live tomorrow. Got 10:30 a.m. California time. You know, 10:30 a.m. California time. Let me see what I'm supposed to say. If you log on to Ozzy, O-Z-Y, Ozzy's Facebook page around 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, you can see live. And they want me to talk about stuff. They like say, oh, we could talk about, and it's like, you know what? I got it handled. I've been doing Knuckle Up since Knuckle Up #1. And for those of you who don't know, Knuckle Up went up from 1 to 250 before the show collapsed under its own weight at Combat Music Radio. Kid Nate picked it up for Bloody Elbow, and instead of going from 250 to 251, I decided to start at 500 and work backwards, so the numbers go backwards. When I get to 251, if I have not been nominated for MMA Journalist of the Year, I will set myself aflame, concluding the show in a grand fashion. So there is that. But tomorrow, Monday, which I mean Monday what, Eugene? Monday, April 11th at 10:30 a.m. Facebook Live. If you got a Facebook account, go to Ozzy, O-Z-Y, and there'll be a Facebook Live thing in there. Check it out. This will be the last one they asked me to do. I guarantee it. Because I'm going to bring all of what Knuckle Up has to bear into the straight, buttoned-up, laced-up Ozzy world, because I'm convinced, in actual fact, that what we do here could go big time. And I keep talking. You guys can make me a liar. Nobody show up. Even if you don't do anything but turn on at work and then minimize the window and do it. Because otherwise, you know, I got no backing for this idea that media needs to change. That the old two shots of guys, what do you think about that, Kelly Ripa? I don't know, Michael Strahan. What do you think? All that shit is dead. It's dead, dead, dead. And then the third and biggest thing, now I've taken things, now I'm going to give something. The third commercial is we have a fantastic photographer who is doing a photo project. I'm trying to tell it without divulging too much of it. Doing a photo project that involves portraits of fighters. So let me tell you a little bit of story that involves a outre sex story. Okay, an ex-girlfriend of mine says to me, she says, "Hey, do you know this guy from this other band?" Maybe I shouldn't mention the guy's name. I'll mention the guy's name. She goes, "Do you know Kevin Seconds from 7 Seconds?" I go, "Sure, of course I know Kevin Seconds from 7 Seconds." And she's trying to be cute with me. She goes, "Oh, you know, he hangs out here. He's always around. I guess he moved to town. You know, I go, "Well, how's Kevin doing? How's he looking? It's been a long time since I've seen him, about, you know, whatever, 10 years, 15 years. Oh, she goes, "Oh, he's great." And I was like, "You like Kevin?" I was, "Oh, no, I don't like Kevin. I don't like Kevin." Look, you know what? I tell you what, you know, in my world, there's cock blocking and there's cock assisting. And I'm going to give you a cock assist. She goes, "Well, I don't know what you're doing." Just go up to him and say, "Hey, my friend Eugene from Whipping Boy," which is the name of my old punk rock band, "says hi." You know, that's all. That's, boom, you're in. So she's at Tower Records when there was a place called, when such time as a place called Tower Records existed. And she sees Kevin Seconds and she goes up and she goes, "Hey, you're Kevin Seconds, aren't you?" And he goes, "Well, yeah." And she goes, "You know, Eugene from Whipping Boy says," oh, he goes, "Oh shit, you know Eugene?" She says, "Yeah, I know Eugene." They become fast friends and sexual contact ensues. Not a single word of thanks from either one of them. Eugene Robinson matchmaker over and above the Call of Duty for an X, but I did it because that type of guy is the type of guy that I am. Sharing, caring, preaching, and teaching. And in this way, I am letting you in on if you train and you are at a fight gym, the most famous guy in that fight gym who you've never had the stones or the guts to approach, you now have a reason to approach the most famous fighter you know. That's what I'm saying. The reason, the whole preamble was you now have a reason to approach the most famous fighter you know. Okay, the project occurs in California. If you're in LA, it has to be scheduled. I'm sure she could travel. But if you are in Sacramento, if you're in Stockton, if you're in San Jose, if you know a famous fighter or are a famous fighter and are in Los Angeles, San Francisco, or plan to be here at any point, we might even stretch it to Vegas, there is a great art project that involves portraits of fighters. Not everybody will be chosen. Several of them have been taken already. And it doesn't have to be MMA fighters. It could be boxers. It could be amateur wrestlers. But these have to be people I would have put in the fight book. That's all I'm saying. Okay, you got a pen? Do you have a pen? Because you're going to write this down. It's an email address. It's K, as in Ku Klux Klan. No. No letters. It's a letter K. Now the @ sign. Okay? Now K and the @ sign. Now I'm going to spell it out for you because I don't want any stupid questions. So K @ KASIA ROBINSON.com. So that's K@KashaRobinson.com. That's it. That's it. So we got the t-shirt URL that'll be in the intro of the show. We got the Facebook Live tomorrow at 10:30, and then we got the photo. There's a great photo book. It involves portraits of fighters. There's a lot more to it than that, but we're keeping it under wraps because it's secret. So I got 3 things. Give it to you. Now, done. Move on. Commercials are done. Some of it will be in the show. Tell the world about the commercials. You won't regret it. Anyway, this is the Knuckle Up, round number 320. And as you can well imagine, the phone has been lighting up. The phone's been lighting up. And the phone has been lighting up where people are really trying to figure out the finer points of lost battallionage. Now, there is that hater out there. This commenter from last week, and he was very clever. It was very amusing. He was a sublime troll because he goes, I'm sick of this guy always talking about himself. He's talking about me, which goes back to Boston Market. Some of you who've listened long enough could explain the Boston Market slam. It goes back to Boston Market. It's like the guy who always goes into Boston Market and complains about Boston Market while eating at Boston Market, subsequent and consequent to eating at Boston Market the time before that, keeps coming back to Boston Market to complain about eating at Boston Market. So the guy is complaining in the comments, but that's not why. I mean, he's coming back very specifically. It's clear based on his jibes that he listens to the show, and this is why it's so amusing, the attempts to troll. So he goes, I'm sick of this guy talking about himself. I'm sick of this, this fantasy world he's created around Lost Battalions and Dark Starred and Phantom Toll Booths and Gichters. Fuck this guy. Gene, the only way you would know that Gene annoyed me is if you had listened to an old show, unless you know somebody named Gene. So I strongly suspect that it was actually my father who sent that, in which case I have the same salute that I've had for him since I was 19, and it remains the same. But mostly I'm just amused. So what the phone's been blown up with, And people been sending me emails and Twitters and however you come accustomed to getting a hold of me at Eugene S. Robinson, typically is if you want to get a hold of me through Twitter. It's like, oh my God, Eugene, Junior Dos Santos fucking won this fight. First of all, my picks there were so few cares on this that my picks would scrape the butt. For the first time ever, I just zeroed out. I'm not even going to give myself like the credit like when I semi-cared about the fighter because he was Polish and then picked the Polish fighter to win. It's like I'm not even going to give myself credit for that. You know, I picked Rothwell and I picked Gonzaga. They both blanked. But, you know, it's fundamentally, if these are the only two fights I cared about on a fight card with tons of fights, what do I give a shit? You know, as far as I'm concerned, this is what I do in jiu-jitsu. This is a gimme for Kid Nate. He's been blanking, and you watch. This is gonna be the week of chortle for Kid Nate. I'm not gonna bring it up. You watch how soon he brings it up. It's gonna be fucking fantastic. It's gonna be great. It's like I do in jiu-jitsu, like when I go, oh, take my back, buddy. Oh, if it's gi day, you want to hold on to that? And maybe even throw that leg over this arm so I can't move it. All right, ready? Go. You know, sometimes you got to build the confidence of the people around you so they don't feel like losers. Now, I'm reading Sherdog, and they're talking about a return to form, and then Junior Dos Santos is vowing to reclaim UFC heavyweight title. He goes, I know it's going to happen. And everybody's like, glub, 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 glub. And you know what that glub, 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 glub is? The glub, 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 glub is them consuming massive amounts of Kool-Aid. But let's step back a bit. It's like, okay, how can we, this cat was Lost Battalion, and I've gone on record. We've all kind of come to the conclusion that you can't get yourself out of Lost Battalion. You cannot do it. You can't do it. You know, it's unlikely that you will ever do it. Well, let me explain something. Let me explain something to you. And it's like, you know, it's like the kid, hey, shoeless Joe Jackson, say it ain't so, Joe. Say it ain't so. Eugene, this Lost Battalion. This meme, it's flawed. You know, he actually fought his way out of before, like the line in Pulp Fiction says, before we start sucking each other's dicks, let's examine this. Take a deep breath, sit back and relax. We're going to talk about this in a sensible way that like anybody can understand. Okay? Well, first of all, what do we want to go? Do we want to go through, let me see. We'll do this top one at the top. We'll go that. All the others on the card that I wasn't so interested in, we'll discuss later. All right, so hold on, let me get this right. All right, so we have Junior Dos Santos. Now, Junior Dos Santos, by dint of two devastating losses to Cain Velasquez. Okay, the last one of which, and people have made memes, seeing his face melt, and he says it in the cage immediately after getting beaten by Cain Velasquez. He goes, I figured out what I did wrong. When we meet again, and everybody's really quiet. They're looking at each other and they're really quiet, and they're like, there is no again. There is no again for you. And then he was out in the mist. He was out in the mist of the Lost Battalion, bumping hither and yon, running to that hill, hiding behind that hummock, coursing over the top of that berm, leading a charge to God knows where. And now you have an ascendant Ben Rothwell. You have an ascendant Ben Rothwell who's won some unlikely fights. An ascendant Ben Rothwell who's like saying, now is my time. I gotta get my you know. You gotta understand that while the bald one in the UFC really, really, absolutely loves a Conor McGregor, What they love even more than a Conor McGee is a Honda. You know, and I'm talking about the golly gee Willikers thing. I'm talking about a willingness to trust, a willingness. You know what? I have never had it work well that somebody's looked me in the face and said, look, you can trust me. That never works well. But you got Honda, who was like, wow, man, going down that Elvis road. Colonel Tom Parker bought me a pink Cadillac. He really loves me. Can I see the books? You don't need to see the books, son. Actually, Colonel Tom Parker was not in America. Like a Belgian Jew, if I remember correctly. Some such extraction. Which is cool. It's a cool fun fact. They don't like a Conor McGee. But if you see the bald one smiling this day, he got Conor McGee. Somebody said, Eugene, who is more of a true believer, Hitler or Conor McGregor? I said, well, usually you can only tell us through the aftermath, but I'm going to have to go with Hitler. You know, complete and total failure to adjust. And his last recorded words is heard by Albert Speer, which Albert Speer wrote about in his autobiography. Well, I guess the German people failed me. There's no light in that room. At some point, Conor McGregor's obsession, self-described, well, described by his Straight Blast Jim, his teammates, he is obsessed with it. Some guys come face to face with belief, and it's like, what are you telling me? Whoa, God doesn't exist? Really? Well, if God, I believe that God, Satan is there on the shoulder. Throw yourself off the cliff. You believe so much in this God of yours, throw yourself off the cliff. I'm sure the angels will whoosh you up from the bottom. They're not going to let you die, right? Yeah, you won't test your God. Okay, all right. So if Conor McGregor is obsessed, it's like that great line from that Nick Cave song, you know, about stamping on the rampant with a cloven hoof. And he says, here's your man. I got your proof. You know, who talked me up on this roof? Satan. Who convinced me to kill a person that made me flee, that got me up on this roof before? Satan. And now who's accusing me and turning me in? Satan. The bald one in this instance, hey, Conor, man, you should go back down to 145. Please don't go back. Please don't go back. You should go back to 145. Please don't go back. Please don't go back. I tell you what, you know, 145, I mean, if you can't handle Nate, you know, I understand. You know, if Nate's going to kick your ass, if that's going to be the kind of thing that crawls into your brain pan and just sits there crawling at you, you replay it in your head again and again, Nate beating your ass, all 209 making fun of you. Fighters, look at these fighters. Look what they're tweeting out stuff about you. If that's going to happen, oh, my God, you know. But, you should go back to 145. Clearly, you should go. God damn it, I'm good. I got to. Fuck that. I got to fight the guy. I got to fight him again. Oh, okay. It can't. The bald one can't lose. If by some string he watches the video of Josh Thompson beating Nate, who brings some of that, and Nate's more than 11 days of preparation time won't even it out, and he wins. Bald one wins because we got a trilogy, baby. You know, if he loses, he has got now a compliant, possibly. Who knows? Who knows what you – I mean, you would have thought the devastation of post-war Germany would have been enough to shake Hitler out of his – but a true believer, he's no Ted Cruz. You can't – I'm not saying Ted Cruz is a cynical opportunist. I'm saying a real, true believer. Like I said, there's no light in that room. I don't think most of us since 1945, you know, it's only the few lunatics, the few and far between the lunatics who are true believers right up to the very end. I remember talking to Anton LaVey from the Church of Satan about that, and he was like, you know, he said, God, you won't see any deathbed conversions with me, but he had a look on his face. So, you know, great divide. Like Dylan said, you got to pay to keep from going through all these things twice, baby. You got to pay. So Conor McGee is gone for the okie doke. Who knows? But the question is Junior Dos Santos. So he says, when we match up again, you know, and everybody looks because that moment's never going to happen. So now he's the head. We've been talking about him for months and months as the head of the Lost Battalion. more added on top of that, this idea that you can get called out of the Lost Battalion, like he was called out of Lost Battalion, but that doesn't, you understand, I always said, you can't get out of the Lost Battalion, but you can be taken out of the Lost Battalion, all right? People say, well, okay, is he, if he loses this fight, is he still Lost Battalion? Yes. If he fights, is he lost? By virtue of the fact that he was pulled out, by virtue of the fact that he was, the Baldwin looks around and goes Santos. Does that mean he is not Lost Battalion anymore? And I was willing to allow that he was no longer Lost Battalion. You know, every now and then it happens. In a multi-dimensional, four-dimensional shift of time that the Baldwin's hand leans in and it pops you out. It pops you out. And he's like being born, like coming through the womb. And it's a brand new world. A brand new fucking world. And it's all opening out in front of him. Is it? Is it? You know, if you, like I said on whose show the other day, I don't even remember whose show I was on. If you look into the Lost Battalion looks into you. They talk about Scott Kelly, not the guitar player from Neurosis, but the astronaut. And that astronaut is going, you know what I had for a year? Let me tell you what I had for a year out in outer space. I had 10 times the radiation that those of you on Earth had. Protected by the atmosphere from radiation, I got 10 times that, making me more susceptible to every single cancer that you have. I lost muscle mass, I lost bone density. I gained 2 inches of height. These are the things that happened to me in outer space. I am now back on Earth, but I still got the 2 inches of height. I still got the 10 times radiation exposure. And I guess he lost weight or something. He's not eating that space food. And he's trying to give some indication that he's also psychologically damaged, but he didn't say that. So you take Junior Dos Santos, you call him, say, hey, man, you got to fight. And there was another guy like that. There was another guy, who was it? John Jones said, oh, you know, he with DC out, that he was going to fight heavyweight. And suddenly, a bolt out of the blue, Shane Carwin comes in and says, I'll fight him. What the fuck you been doing, Shane? You know, my great-grandmother used to have that saying, all the goodbyes ain't gone. You need to stay fucking gone, man. Because unless you've been training, you might get yourself into some pair of pants that don't fit right. I love Shane Carwin. I was a big Shane Carwin fan, but I was heartbroken when he quit. But I respected it because he's like my friend Max Moore. Go and type Max Moore, OZY, Ozzy, Navy Corpsman, combat medic, 6 tours of duty in Afghanistan, and read the piece that he wrote for me at Ozzy. It's you know, how soap saved my life, I think is the title. You know, he was an MMA fighter. Now, I don't mention this in the piece because we only have like 800 words. He was an MMA fighter, and he was doing really well. And he was in the middle of a 3-round fight, and he was beating the slop out of this guy. And after the 2nd round, so he's in the 3rd round, he looks out into the audience and doesn't like what he sees. He turns to the ref and goes, I'm done. Ref goes, what? I'm done. Open the gate. I'm getting the fuck out of here. No, the round, you gotta, he goes, I'm done. Open it. So he starts to open it. He walks out. The crowd, nobody knows what's going on. Walks out, outside, dressed the way he is. Fuck it, off. After 6 combat tours of duty, post-traumatic stress, and waking up with his gun in his mouth, you know, night after night in Los Angeles, the story he wrote for me is kind of about that, but I don't mention the MMA piece. I share that with you now. Yahoo picked it up, and I think Huffington Post did as well, but it's a good piece. It breaks my heart every time I read it. But my point is, so you can get plucked out, but when you get plucked out, you bring the place with you. So yes, he is let me see if I can get this, if I can say this right. Being in Lost Battalion is like being a fucking alcoholic. You might not actively drink, but, you know, Bill, you know, are you a friend of Bill's? Is what people in AA say to identify themselves to squares in the outside world. Yes, I'm a friend of Bill, especially if Bill smokes a whole fucking lot of crack. That's my friend. Even if you actively stop drinking, you are an alcoholic. Like somebody might be a Catholic, somebody might be a Jew, short, tall. You're an alcoholic. So once you're in the Lost Battalion, you were always in the Lost Battalion. Because the lack of awareness that got you into the Lost Battalion will be perpetually your undoing. It's your handmaiden. So, you know, he's walking around in a place where he sees things that he recognizes now that he's out. And if you don't believe me, and I was willing to go along with this. I was willing to go along with, he looks great. He did. He looked great. But, you know, Ben Rothwell is a friend of Knuckle Up. But there are two categories of heavyweights, and he's from one of them. You know, big guys who hit hard. That's one category. And then there are the big guys who hit hard with talent. You know, we knew going into it last week, we said Rothwell did actually, little known fact, they think because he's got the Milwaukee, the Wisconsin thing, the Midwest thing, that he was a wrestler. Actually wasn't a wrestler. We talked about this last week's show on Care Don't Care. So, you know, Cigano has nothing to fear from him on the ground. It's not like the guy's going to take him down. And he's working with pretty good jiu-jitsu guys. We've had them on the show before. Hicks and Gracie guys, small guys. Lewis and his brother, whose name I can't remember, slipping my head, on the old Knuckle Up. We did a live piece with them at Caesar. They came to do a seminar for Chris Sanford from the first season of Ultimate Fighter. We went to the UFC gym. You have to look it up. It's one of the older shows. I don't remember. But these guys are both under like 135 pounds. Hot shit jiu-jitsu guys. Black belts under Hickson. Solid guys. But I got news for you. Rothwell is so fucking huge that they would really have to redo a curriculum based solely on his size, because the stuff they were trying to have me do, like throw your leg over here, put your head on the mat and spin. Yeah, it's one thing to put your head on the mat and do that breakdance move where you spin on your head to get your legs on the other side of the guy to pass the guy's guard, when all that you have on top of that neck, now that your head is posted on the floor, is 135 pounds. Ben Rothwell is not sticking his head on the mat and doing any spinning. So Cigano has got nothing to fear from him, and his boxing is still solid. In other words, Cigano didn't bring to bear anything that's going to get him past Cain Velasquez, wherever Cain Velasquez is, which is not Lost Battalion. Cain Velasquez is now in the Phantom Toll booth, but he's not Lost Battalion. So when you get immediately post-fight, when you get, let me get the headline here. When you get Junior Dos Santos saying, what is the quote? So I'm thinking, yeah, you know, this could happen. You know, this could happen. You know, he looked fucking great. I just thought, you know, his head was gone. But one thing about guys in Lost Battalion, you know, their heads might be gone, but if he's running toward what he thinks is a water hole and it's just full of sand, he's still running top speed. He's actually running. All right. I'm sorry to get too lost in this analogy for us, but, you know, in other words, his skills haven't diminished, but they're just not enough to do what needs to be done, which is get him out of Lost Battalion. So he says, I'm going to read this. Mike Sloan from Sherdog, and I'm going to read it to you. And it says, the last two times Judo Santos fought for the UFC heavyweight championship, he came up short. He lost his crown to Cain Velasquez in their second bout and then was knocked out by the American in their rubber match. Since then, he's only gone 1-1, and the MMA world largely cast him aside. Well, the MMA world didn't cast him aside. We just didn't know where to find him. Anybody listening to Knuckle Up knew exactly where to find him. After his performance in the main event of Sunday's UFC Fight Night event in Zagreb, Croatia, the former world champion has pumped some air into the lungs of his career. Now, listen to how he said this. Listen to how he said this. This is the painful thing about it. It's just like when he said after getting beaten by Cain Velasquez the second time, or when we have the rematch, and everybody's kind of quiet, and they're kind of like, yeah, probably not going to happen, but we'll tell him later. So he says, look, listen to how Mike Sloan words it. I'll give you the emphasis so you can hear it how I'm hearing it. After his performance in the main event of Sunday's UFC Fight Night event in Zagreb, Croatia, the former world champ has pumped some air into the lungs of his career. And he finds himself right back in the thick of things regarding the promotion's title picture. After dismantling Ben Rothwell over 5 rounds, Dos Santos said that everything is coming back together and one day he'll have that gold back around his waist. Here's the quote. "We are putting everything in the right place, and that's why I'm going to be the champion again," the Brazilian told the assembled media at the post-fight press conferences. "I just want to fight. I know it's going to happen at some point." You know what? Mike Sloan goes on to say, if Dos Santos is to achieve what he feels is his destiny, he'll have to turn in a few more magnificent performances like the one he had against the Wisconsinite. Dos Santos is one of the better boxers in all of MMA, and he took the taller, larger Rothwell apart from the outside. He cracked his foe with a seemingly endless supply of jabs to the body and head, a game plan that kept the American out of a rhythm throughout the duel, which pleased Ngannou. And he says again, "I think everything went well," Dos Santos stated. "Ben Rothwell is a beast. He walks forward all the time, putting some pressure, so I had to move a lot. It's always good to go to the body, especially against a big guy like that." Okay. And then he says, the part that kills it all, he goes, he's going to be back in the gym in 10 days, and he'll be ready to fight anyone. And then he says, "I know I have to improve all of my skills," he remarked. "I can't go away from boxing. I have to know jiu-jitsu and wrestling, but I'm a boxing guy. I like to move." You know what? I don't know if you know much about CPR or artificial respiration, but if you come upon a body in the woods and it's laying there, the first thing you don't do is put your mouth on its mouth, right? The first thing you do is to check to see whether it's alive or dead. I'm not saying Junior Dos Santos' career is dead. Shut up! The cat is deaf. This does nothing except making me feel better. I'm not saying the guy's career is dead. Just like Shane Carwin, who quit, got some tweets, got some play on his tweets when John Jones said he's going to go to heavyweight, and then he says, "I was like, shit, I'll fight him," but I mean, I don't know what he sent to his friends or fans or how much serious weight was by it. I'm sure it means he still follows the sport. Good to know that he didn't move to the cave. Who was that cat who moved to the cave in Peru? The jiu-jitsu guy. Please let me know. Text me. I've forgotten. So Junior Dos Santos it's like we had a parade for Junior Dos Santos. Since the Cain Velasquez fiasco, he's won. He won his fight last night, credibly against the guy that I picked him because Ben Rothwell's a friend of Knuckle Up, and two, Ben's been getting lucky and he's got belief on his side. Now, belief is only useful if you're a true believer. I have no idea if Ben Rothwell is a true believer or not, but I know that like Mike Tyson says, confidence breeds success. Success breeds confidence. That much I know. And I still see, you know, Cigano's head, Junior Dos Santos' head is being kind of wobbly. Because clearly, according to Mike Sloan, like he said, the MMA world cast him aside. Nobody wants to see this guy. Something that Chris Weidman's got a feeling that he's going to have coming up. He won the fight. Let's not start sucking each other's dicks. Because you didn't win the fight in a way that surprised anybody. In other words, Junior Dos Santos didn't win this fight as much as Ben Rothwell lost it. Now, Ben Rothwell's been making noises about title shots and he's ready and his time. He's got to say that. He's got to say that. Like every guy who sidles up to every woman at every bar has got to say, I'm rich and I got a 10-inch dick. You know statistically how many men on this planet have 10-inch dicks? I've done an article for Ozzy, statistically. It's not the vast majority of men do not have 10-inch penises. They do not. However, if you go out Friday night, you will meet many men who claim to have 10-inch penises because they know once they're in a situation to display that penis, it'll be largely too late. The woman is not taking out a ruler. She's not taking out a tape measure. She's saying, well, maybe he's a grower, not a shower. It doesn't look like it could be 10 inches based on what I'm seeing now, but okay, well, to see if he's a grower, I got to put some work in. She put some work in, and she's like, look, I don't know much about measurements, but I don't know. That doesn't seem to be 10 inches to me. And then it's too late. That's why they say it. So Junior Dos Santos beat the fuck out of Ben Rothwell. He beat the fuck out of Ben Rothwell. You know, we know this. Well, I'm not disputing that. I am not disputing that at all. But what the fuck does that mean? Somebody had to put the kibosh on Rothwell's dreams. And until I hear that Kane is having a press conference and retiring, I think all these guys should trod lightly. The thing is, you don't pop in and out of Lost Battalion. And if you were in the Lost Battalion as long as Cigano was, you're not out. You're not out. You are not the fuck out. What do I mean? What do you mean, Eugene? He won. Okay. All right. You know what that is? That's a nice dream in the Lost Battalion. I woke up and Auntie M, you were there and you were there. And that's a Wizard of Oz thing. If you guys are under 30, you don't know what I'm talking about. And you were there and you were there. So Junior Dos Santos beat Ben Rothwell in a completely credible fashion. Got it. Beautiful. Okay? And in this fiction that he talks about where he's ready, I see myself one day. Did you see the faces of the people at the press conference? You know what? You know what? It's like that old Saturday Night Live thing where the two guys quit their jobs and they had their long-suffering wives. It's like a sports documentary. They quit their jobs and they're really going to go for it now. They want to get into the Olympics and they're going to go in men's synchronized swimming. And there's a guy named Lawrence, played by Martin Short, and he's in the shallow end of the pool as they practice their routines, and he's got a life preserver on, a life vest. And he looks at the camera and goes, I'm not so strong on swimming. I'm not so strong a swimmer. So I have this vest. And so mostly their moves end up doing these hand motions, and the wives are kind of long suffering and like, yeah, well, I quit his job. Maybe it'll work out. One fight. You won one fight, Junior Dos Santos. But let's, before we start sucking each other's dicks, let's look around at heavyweight. Until there's a press conference, Cain Velasquez is still a factor. Who's Cain Velasquez? Well, he's not the fucking champion. Oh, who's the champion? Champion's Fabricio Verdum, one of the guys with one of the highest fight IQs ever. Do you think anybody who is skilled in other departments, unlike a Rothwell who didn't come up as a wrestler, and is learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from hotshot Hickson guys, but hotshot Hickson guys who are 135 pounds. Do you think that anybody, except guys who have delusions, well, not delusions, who might actually be pretty good stand-up guys, are going to go for that okie-doke? No. Cain Velasquez busted open the Junior Dos Santos Smith, and until Junior Dos Santos does, I mean, even at this point now, I guarantee you, Overeem, as a heavyweight, has more cachet with submission and ground fighting than Junior Dos Santos does. And if you thought that there was any likelihood that Ben Rothwell could actually pull off a Cain Velasquez, you were crazy. You were crazy. It wasn't going to happen. I picked Rothwell because I had to. He's a friend of Knuckle Up, and he's been on a fight streak. I like the guy. I like his story. I didn't really give a shit about this fight, so I didn't have any really major dogmas on it. I picked him. And I let Kid Nate have his pick. Did he actually pick Dos Santos? He may have picked Rothwell with me. I may have let him down, but I know for sure he picked Derrick Lewis, which is my segue into Derrick Lewis. Because they were going to ask on if I did it. I'm going to cheat if I did it. Plus, there'll be more people later on again if I did it. But I'm going to have to say, oh man, I just got hungry. I'm going to have to say in no uncertain way that that Gonzaga might be done. No, not Gonzaga might be done. He's 12-10 in the UFC. You know, if he's still in the heavyweights, if he hasn't been cut, I mean, they cut him. They cut Maldonado. Gonzaga still has that thing over Crow Cop. So, but you can't tell me you want to see him fight again. You can't tell me and have me believe it. Yeah, Kid Nate said it best. He said Derrick Lewis is a monster. It's not like Gonzaga is a friend of Knuckle Up. Not at all. Not necessarily at all. But Derrick Lewis has been unskilled on the ground. But pride fucking hurts. And most guys don't know this. I like Randy Couture. Randy Couture goes against James Toney. I'm gonna fuck him up. There's some guys who can't. I gotta ask. It's like that Dirty Harry. I know what you're thinking. Can you buy a 5 or only 6 shots? All this craziness, I kind of forgot myself. But there's one question you need to ask yourself. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk? And then, of course, if you're Andy Robinson, you go, yeah, you grab the gun and you see a Dirty Harry shoot you and you fall. It's like, do you feel lucky? And all this confusion, I kind of forgot myself. Randy Couture led Tony to believe that he was gonna, that he couldn't, the pride was hurt, that he needed to know he used to box. One of the first covers of Randy Couture was Grappling Magazine, and it was him. They talked about him being in the Army and being a boxing champion. Blah, 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 blah. Nah. High fight IQ, baby. Fuck you. It's MMA. I'm taking you down. It doesn't change the fact that if you go against a guy who spends all this time boxing and you're going to – I did an MMA match against a boxer. You know what he did in the first 10 seconds? Put me on my ass like an L. I went rush it in, changed levels, and he hit me right straight on the fucking jaw. And then I'm sitting down on the ground. Actually, how was I sitting on the ground? Well, if I had very short legs, that's how I would have looked. I guess like that. And I'm looking up at him, and he was freaked out, and I was like, oh, shit. And he looks at me, and he starts to try to talk. And I scramble up, and I didn't even stand up again. I scrambled up, yanked his legs out from under him, crawled up his body, and bang until the match was over. Fuck that. Pride hurts, and that hurt. So who's going to fight Junior Dos Santos the way Junior Dos Santos wants to fight? Outside of a Ben Rothwell. Who in the heavyweight division? Even though, look, it's not going to happen. So you know what? We're having a parade for a guy who's still dead. It's complex. It's difficult to understand. And I'm a Cigano fan. So you're not going to out-nut jump me on Cigano. But the reality of it is he is still dead. He is still Lost Battalion. I'm not saying this to keep my dream of the Lost Battalion alive. You know what he has to do to get out of the Lost Battalion? I'll tell you what he has to do. He's got to beat Cain Velasquez. And then he's got to beat Verdum. And then he's got to hold that belt. And then he's got to beat back the challenger. That's it? Yeah, that's it. That's a lot. That's a huge amount. And like I said, unless he's got clocks at home that are going backwards, stuck. So I love that you're in the parade, man. Swaddled up in the backseat of a caddy, waving. But that Cadillac is heading straight for the fucking mist again. I guarantee you. I fucking guarantee you. And I'm not making this stuff up. I'm not. Text me right now. If you see a credible, if you are Joe Silva and you see a matchup for this guy that has some juice, I want to hear about it. If you're a heavyweight right now, what you're waiting for is you're waiting for Johnny Boney Joni to beat Rumble and to beat DC again and make the jump, because that's the only fight that's got any juice. Oh, well, I could fight Cain. You could fight Cain. But the juice for Cain is gone. Was Cain Lost Battalion? Cain is not Lost Battalion. He's not. But he's Phantom Tollbooth. He's not in a position to be calling shots. Still a threat. You know, still a threat. Might get the fight with Verdum right away as soon as he's healthy. As soon as I'm a black belt, I might be a black belt. But I'm not a black belt. So Gonzaga, gone. He's 12-10 in the UFC. How much more gone do you have to be? But I guess somehow they figured maybe he was a name in Zagreb. I don't know what they were thinking. He's gone. Junior Dos Santos, we're having a parade for him. It's a happy day for I love the dude. Happy day for him. But he is still in the Lost Battalion. Still in the Lost Battalion. Now, I want to contrast that with something coming up. A couple of instances so you know I'm not completely full of shit and we're about to wind up. If Chris Weidman, it's just entertaining. I know I've been tweeting out things when he's saying that he's going to win, and I don't even, I know I'm laughing when I tweet it, so I don't even have to explain. But on the outside chance that Chris Weidman beats Luke Rockhold, is he no longer Lost Battalion? Question is, well, let's go back for a second. If Chris Weidman, who said, I don't know why I jumped on his back, I don't know why I did this, I was sick, I had this problem. If he beats Luke Rockhold, first of all, is it a series? Well, the way he would have to beat Luke Rockhold for it to be a series, neither one of these guys are going to be capable of doing. It would have to be, they haven't fought a fight like that yet, is what I'm saying. But if he does beat him, there's going to be a series because you just can't, the guys, whatever happened, it must have been some freak thing and they got to go out of it. Okay, I got it. If they think that they're looking at the trend lines, if the trend lines in the fight have it kind of going up like this, then there'll be a fight, a third fight. In other words, he's in the same Junior Dos Santos position. They'll be having a parade on Long Island for fucking Chris Weidman if he beats Luke Rockhold. But the question you need to ask yourself is, can he beat Luke Rockhold twice? Because there's going to be a third part. There's going to be a trilogy and I just don't see it. I don't fucking see that. No way, no how. If he does that, if Weidman does it, he will be the first one out of the Lost Battalion. But being a true believer and having your head not right, I just don't see it happening. People say, well, by your standards, it seems like Anderson Silva is Lost Battalion. Anderson Silva knows exactly where Anderson Silva is. Anderson Silva is going to fulfill his contract by fighting money fights, and he's not talking to anybody about challenging for the strap. Does he want to fight Luke Rockhold? Probably fuck no. Why? Well, because if he fights Luke Rockhold, much like Honda Housey, who's suddenly healthy again, he's got a way, he's provided a doorway through which Chris Weidman can walk. But I heard something interesting for Chris Weidman's camp, and that was like, well, we didn't really fucking beat Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva beat himself, but fuck it. I pressed him. I was there. Yeah, I practiced those moves. I'm taking full credit for it. And more significantly, they pegged his head. He said his head's gone. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he said. His head's gone. His head's gone. His head's gone. So, Anderson Silva, he knows exactly where he is. He's not lost, Battalion. He's not lost. He knows exactly where he is. He's in the fat and total. He might have a low number, so he's getting called quicker than somebody like Gonzaga will at this point, but he's done. A body in the forest that you put your lips on to try to breathe life into its lungs. Good luck with that, JDS. Good luck with that. So that was Zagreb, UFC Fight Night Zagreb. If you're expecting me to have me go through all these fights, you're crazy. You're crazy. If you want to know what I was doing so that I could only half-ass pay attention to those fights, well, that is for the presidential level A-list Knuckle Up. That some of you have taken advantage of by emailing me and saying, hey, Eugene, what was the place you're doing that you couldn't watch the show that you didn't want to talk about? You not watched the show when you were doing the show. I'm not going to talk about it now in a very Chuck Berry-esque way. I was doing other things, that's all. So Derrick Lewis calling out Roy Nelson, that's a good pick. That indicates to me that Derrick Lewis knows where Derrick Lewis is. Pacquiao beat Bradley, who gives a fuck? No way. I'm fuck Pacquiao with a stick. This anti-gay thing, fuck you. Well, I'm just expressing an opinion. Take your opinion and just fuck off with that. Because you got invisible friends. I don't want to hear it. Don't want to hear it. There's not a single person I know, including people who are fucking anti-gay, who don't have gay people in their family. Don't want to fucking hear it. Pacquiao, go fuck yourself. Nobody's asking to suck your dick. So anyway, there were other. Let me go back to the main listing. Let's see. Oh, they got. All right, I did pick Tasumov. I did pick him, but I didn't care about his fight. So me picking him means what? It means nothing. It means nothing. What about some of these other fights? Nagano. Yeah, well, he beat Curtis Razorblades. Curtis Razorblades was a hot shit nose. It was a short fight, but he got his ass. But the guy's on a record on a run. Kid Nate asked if he interested me. I'm not so interested. Jan Blachowicz, I did pick him. I just didn't care about the fight. So technically, I could leaven my loss, but I'm all right. I'm all right being totally under. And I got nothing else to say. Nothing else to say. It was nice seeing Derrick the Beast Lewis, but Derrick the Beast Lewis knows exactly where he is. The Black Beast, sorry. Who's he calling out? Roy Nelson. Roy Nelson's at home like, what? Shit. What? Oh, that's right. I'm a fighter. Yeah. I take that guy. How much they pay? Frank Mir, somebody texted me, got popped. I don't know if I can get independent verification on him getting popped. I'm assuming they mean dirty drug test. He could have gotten popped for jaywalking, for all I know. Anyway, on this week, we got fights coming up next week. So we got If I Did It, we got Care, Don't Care, Come Back. If you want to sign, I'm turning the kid not there. You can get a hold of me at Twitter at Eugene S. Robinson at Twitter. But the commercial's at the top of the line. Remember, at the intro, I'm going to put a link for this guy with his Old Man Jiu-Jitsu shirts. Only until April 23rd. You got 13 days. If you're watching now, 13 days. If you watch the show tomorrow, you got 12. Order a shirt if you want Old Man Jiu-Jitsu with my face on it. It doesn't sound especially inviting to hear me talk about it, but it's fucking funny. I laughed. I bought 6. I'm giving out for gifts all the rest of 2016. Oh, you graduated from junior high. Here you go, kid. Oh, you're graduating from high school. Here you go, kid. Oh, it's your 21st birthday. Here you go, kid. Oh, it's Mother's Day. Here you go, Ma. I'm giving them out. Everybody's getting one, you know. And then also the photo, the photo book. It gives you an opportunity to meet a famous fighter, or you're a famous fighter, or a fighter yourself. K at KASIAROBINSON.com. K at KashaRobinson.com. It's a great photo book. You should sign on. Some of the famous people are already in. I will not mention their names, but it's a great idea, a great concept. It's going to make a great coffee table book. I'm going to dare say Rizzoli is putting it out. How do you like that? Think big. Anyway, that's the end of Knuckle Up. This is round number 320. Do I need to explain the machete? I don't think I do. We'll see you next week. Look what you made me do!